Okay guys, we actually on video 4 of the tutorial. Let me just align this a little bit better here. Alright, so we left off and we actually focus on um, um, naming the different items, put some color on them, and on this video we're gonna focus on UV. This will probably be a two-part because I know a lot of students in class have 8 and then we also have 13. So yeah, I'll just basically, it's gonna be kind of like a similar tutorial on both, one for 8 and one for 13. And it's just going through the shaded trees a little bit and mainly UVing so that we could drop an image. So this one might be a little bit lengthy because there's a lot of steps, and I noticed that as I was working in class, it was actually a lot of steps, and it was kind of hard to remember a lot of these, especially if you never done these before. So I'm gonna focus on this. With that, dude, let's just move forward. And we left off. Actually, let me just show you. We created those two cameras, right? So we worked on the straight and the angle. So we have both of them working. So now we have two cameras that we'll be able to revert back to. Another thing I wanted to do, which if you see the sample here that I did, the background is a lot darker, and then you have like a different color for a lid. I mean, it doesn't matter the colors. I just want to show that we could differentiate. I know we had the finishes, but let's also have a little bit of more of a separation within colors, especially on the lid and the base. So the base had the specific green. So let's just make, actually, you know what, let's make the base just a hair darker, just so that it's different enough. So let's go to cup here, close the lid, go to the base green, and just in case we don't know what we do, let's just clone. So we have that lighter green and then this darker green. What we're gonna do with that is just actually click on the color here, and you see the slider here. If you drag it down just a hair, just that's all you need, and dark enough. I mean, if you want to again go into like the RGBs and you have like actual number that you want to go and refer to a Pantone color, that's fine, but this is an exercise that we're just doing kind of like by eye, so that should be sufficient. So now we have that. So we're also adding the sleeve here. If you go in here, the cup project, let's just turn the sleeve back on. Right now we have basically it's just a clay color. So if you go to shading, let's just drag this down a little bit. And I'm sure that there's probably going to be a lot of questions, but we could probably, I think that's what we do in class. We'll review a lot of the questions and probably divide different groups so that we could actually help each other out before we move up to the next thing. And do something a little bit different than what I normally do. I mean, again, I'm learning, just like you guys are learning this. I'm just learning how to try to help you guys learn this and get something out of this class so that you could use on your portfolio and in the future. All right, so here's the sleeve. Let's just add the same color that we added to like the lid on the sleeve. So just right click, duplicate, and let's just drag that down and put it on the sleeve. There you go. So now you have that same sort of color, and let's just even add a little bit of that same noise. You think it'll look kind of nice. So here we go. So now that we have everything, if you go to the straight angle, you have the cup, everything's texture. So now let's start by UV in the cup. So I think it's, if we focus just on the one item and just do that once a little slower, and actually now that I have the video, you guys could refer back to this. It'll be easier to remember because then we'll repeat it again on the sleeve, and then we'll repeat it again on the lid. So with that said, let's just go to item mode. Let's just turn off the sleeve for a minute, and maybe a little longer than a minute, and then the lid, because we're gonna just do the UV mapping on the cup here. I'm gonna move this to the side for a minute. Control Shift front, Shift A, because sometimes they disappear, and sometimes that might happen. Like you go, you set the front view, and if this is like somewhere down here, you don't know where it is. Just click on the cup, and then Shift A, and Shift A would just bring it right to the front, because that would happen. But at least if you remember that command Shift A, that at least, and obviously select the actual item that you want to be in front of you. And that even works for like even a polygon. Like if you have this in a perspective view and you're like in a different angle, you could say Shift A and it focus. But if you select some of these areas and say Shift A, it'll focus, it'll bring right to the area that you want to work on, or you select it. If you select out of it in the background and just say A without the shift, it's gonna go default to the entire scene. So you have a back, the floor, the cameras, the light that you probably don't see. That's why it went all the way down here. But if you go Shift A, it goes right to the cup. So these are things to remember. And I forget to probably go over those with you, because it's one of those things that you like. I know, and I forget that it's something else I have to like introduce. Option, shift around again, just go to the front view, and then on version 8, Control Tab is gonna bring this panel, and in this panel there's different things happen. Like the anime here is just set, it's prepare or engineer. It's like a different sort of set environment that is built to animate, just to set things up to animate. The UV edit is every 3D program has some sort of UV edit, UV mapping, UV edit. So all the 3D programs are familiar with UV mapping. So anything related to putting texture maps or logos, or let's say you create a beautiful box and you have all these beautiful graphics and you want to map it in a box you built. This is what we gotta learn. So we're gonna do a lot of work on UV editing for a little while. Now that we did some modeling, texturing, and setting the scene up. Layout is mainly for a lot of the layout work that you see here is a lot of the same things that we just did in coloring. You could use this as well, but we'll go over it a little bit later. I never worked on setup. Renders, I don't even use this for rendering. I use the model environment that we have here. Topology is a really cool thing to do. I will have to go in detail a little bit later. So for now, we're just gonna go to UV editing. So if you click on here, what it does is just bring you to this window, and this window focuses on on generating maps for the item that we're working on. So you see all these red patterns here, and then you see the object we work on the right hand side. So we want to just select the right hand side here and go to Control Space and set this to front view. So at least now we could select what we want and what we want to do with this cup. So what is it that we want to do? So with this cup, what we want to do is we want to put a logo here somewhere in the middle. And how do we do that? So the first thing we do is we just select the information here. Like some of this, I'm just gonna select the whole front, just this area, and just select it, because I want to be able to move this around if I have to. Just the whole front. And then on the UV map, you see the bottom here, you're gonna see what is called a list. You got property, channels, display, list. So texture. So you got this thing called UV map texture. You want to click on below it, you're gonna see something called new map. So if you click on this thing, we'll call this cup map. Right? This is where we're gonna be mapping our image. So once you click on OK, it's gonna come up here. It's gonna pop in the front, and then if you back up on here, Control Option back up just a little bit, you're gonna see like the Y, it's a green line coming down this way. then the X this way, and then you have the outside. So this is actually just the plane or where your UV is going to be created. So on the left hand side, there's all this information about UV map, UV relax, UV peel. For this particular assignment, we're just going to select what is called project from view. Excuse me. Then just click on this screen once. Once you click, you're gonna see that this image or this wireframe is gonna pop up in the UV area on the UV space. This called UV space. So what I want to do is actually take a snapshot of this, because this is what we're gonna bring into Photoshop so we could drive our logo and then load this into the 3D software. So that's it. You go Command Shift 4 on the Mac keyboard would allow you to bring this little tool up that you'll be able to drag and select to take a screenshot of where you want to be. And I just want to take a picture from this green line all the way to the bottom. And even if you pass or anything, it's okay, because what we'll do is you just open it in Photoshop and adjust it. So here you go, click. So now we just created our first UV map for the cup. So you go to Control tab, let's go back to Model. Model. And deselect. Let's go to Perspective. And this is actually the only part that we have to quickly go into Photoshop. So if you're in Photoshop, you open up that screenshot that we just took a snapshot out of it, and I'm just gonna convert this to, and this is how it will look in Photoshop. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that if you go to rules, you want to make sure that it's cropped to like that red line here, or the bottom part of it, and then the same thing on the left. Like this one was cropped pretty good, but if not, just put a little rule and then just crop right in that position and just say return. Another thing you do is actually go into image size. Every time you take a screenshot, different settings do different things. This is actually saying that it's going to be a 7.3 by 7.3, 144 DPI. I like to work on 300 DPI and up for print so it'll look really nice. So I'm just going to resample this. Just make it at least 10, and then set the resolution to 300 and say okay. And it's just going to scale it up a little bit. You'll save this as I'm going to put this in, I have a folder that I'm creating for you guys. So I'm going to put this on that folder and call it map, because that's going to be an image that we're going to be mapping into the cup. And that specific map is going to be for the cup, so we'll call it cup. Create, and we'll call this cup art, and it'll be PSD because we're going to add the logo on that. Okay, so now we're going to open up the logo. I think I actually have this. The previous logo here, so let me just open this logo up. I will provide you with this logo, and I'll email this to the class so that at least you could use it for your project. Okay, so in Photoshop you just drag this to your cup. You drag the logo to your cup, and I'm just gonna set the transparency a little bit less so that I could see what's happening in the back, because I want to center this. So I'm going to scale this up and move it like somewhere in the middle of the cup, right? As big as I could without making it look kind of wonky. Alright, so now we set the opacity to 100. We add another layer, and fail here. So we'll save this, and then we'll also save a JPEG. Now we go to model, and on the shader tree where we have that cup, if you actually, let's just bring the preview so that you can see the cup that we created. You gotta add layer, image map low. Let me go to that folder that I'm working for you guys. All right. So we go to that JPEG that we created that is called cup art. See it here, and then we're just gonna load that up, and you immediately see that it's gonna populate this area. Sometimes when you have multiple UVs that you create, the program might select one or the other, so you have to know that where, you know, what UV you're using. For the most part, remember the last one that you used. So like if you go to like the image you just loaded, and you see the name here called texture locator, you see we created our UV map, which is what we created for that cup. And where it says UV map, cup map is what we created. But if this for whatever reason shifts away and selects a different map, because now you're working, let's say, with multiple areas that has multiple images, this is where you find them. So you make sure you select the one that you're using for that specific cup. So with that said, now we have the UV map for the cup. So now how do we, you notice how we actually made it a black plate, just like in print. We went over that in class. If you turn that off for a second, you're gonna see that the image is, we got the cup in the background. So let's just start in this clone that material, and let's call it logo color. Still undecisive on what I want to do with that, so let's just make it white. How's that? There you go. So that's a nice white color matte, right? So and if you want to know the values, RGB is 111 over here, so you could just type in that or just drag this all the way down, and that'll just create that white. And then if you put this on the cup map that we just did, and if you drag it inside of the color logo that we just created, you're gonna realize that well, you know what, it reversed. So you could have either have the green color for the logo, and keep the white cup as it is. But in this case, what I intend to do was to inverse this, which is keep that green cup so it's a little bit different, and you have a white logo. So this is how you do that. In 3D, just bring that image. If for whatever reason you decided that you would love to move this just a little higher, you're not happy with the position, just go into angle, something like that. You could just quickly go into Photoshop, and you could look at what you did, transparent, and to move, if you want to move it up, all you have to do is just grab the image and just move it up as high as you like. Say return, right? And then say save, and then you go back to file, save as, and you can go and replace that image you just finished saving, right? And just say save. Replace what you did with the new one, and just like in Illustrator, Photoshop, and the 3D program would update as well. So you go back to the 3D software, and you see this, it's telling you that it's going to update. Say yes, and then the image will update. So this actually is good to know when you're working on the go and you're doing many things. You're like, oh, I don't like it. Oh, I messed up. I moved it. Oh, let me just scale it a little bit more. So you could go back and forth, resave, update, and then you look at it and you move it around and pan it and say, that's what I want to be at. So this at least gives you an idea of the different things that you could do with the UV map. So with that said, I think this particular one is done. And we will do the same thing with the sleeve. We'll add a sleeve on and we'll add a logo. There you go. So here's the sleeve, and we just gonna repeat exactly what we did. I think it would just help remember what we just did officially. Plus, now that you have the video, you could go back and forth, and it'll help. Just like work on different levels. And okay, so here we go. Go back to the cup. We're doing the sleeve, so we just turn everything off but the sleeve. I'm going to front view. Just set this to front view. Control tab. We go to UV map, and then in here we're just going to select just the front. You go. We could select these, although the image, the logo is not going to come all the way up here. Then we say new map on the list. Say new map, and we're going to code this sleeve. Right? Say yes. And the only reason you see that logo in here is because on the shader tree, we are actually cup. Sleeve. Let's go to sleeve. All right. We were on the cup. Now we're gonna go to the sleeve. Got the sleeve selected. We're gonna move this over and just project from the view. And you see, again, you have the UV map populate on the left hand side. So now you go to Command Shift 4 and just drag, and this will go into your desktop. Control Tab, Model. Control Tab, Model. Where's my model? Okay. Let me just go into Photoshop, open up. Let's open up this. This is the sleeve. And we'll do the same thing we did with the previous one. Make sure that it's down. I gotta really zoom up here so that I could, okay. And you see in here, I was a little shy of getting close. Gotta zoom up. There you go. And this will allow me to make the selection with the cropping tool in Photoshop. Let's just move this to that point, because otherwise it might be a little off. And then just say return. So now we just set this to size, image size. Let's make it 12. Resample it. Let's make this 12. Right, and then make this 300 dpi, so that at least you have something that is nice and sharp, right? We could steal the logo from the previous one. Let's close out of the cup art, because and click 5 so that you got the transparency. And I'm just gonna center this as well. Make this 100% opaque. Make sure you fill the background. Option delete will fill to white. And then just save this for this as sleeve art. So this is map. We're gonna call this sleeve. Okay, here you go. Let's create. Art, and say yes, and then you save also as a JPEG. The JPEG is what we're gonna map. You could save it as a PNG. It doesn't have to be JPEG or anything you like. All right, so we'll close out of that. We go to 3D program, and on the shader 3 sleeve, we could add an image map, load image map, and not the cup. We'll go to the sleeve that we created, JPEG, say open, and automatically you're gonna see that it's gonna load up on this end. Let's just say, you know what, I actually would like this sleeve to be matte, really matte. So let's increase that to 80. Yeah, and no clear. It's just kind of look cool. I don't know, it just gives you that like premium feel. All right, so now what do we do with this? We're gonna make it like that, either white, or we could make it the dark green that we use for the cup. So if we're gonna go to the cup base, that dark foundation color that we use, which is this one, let's just call this, make sure that we have a DK in front of it. This is actually for that cup, that dark green that we use for the base. So we're just gonna right click and duplicate it, and we're gonna use that as the logo color for the sleeve. It's gonna be really subtle, but I think it'll just give it a little something, and we could always adjust if needed. So let's just drag that logo that we just created, inverse the UV or that sleeve R image, so that it's just that area here that we created. You can hardly see it. It's so subtle that maybe we just make it even a little darker. So number one is just not as reflective. Let's just make it one so that we can see what's happening a little bit better. Yeah, so one kills all that reflection. And then if you click on the color, just drag it just a hair. It's just a visual thing so that you could really see the color. There you go, it's popping a lot nicer. So now, if you go into the item mode and click on the cup, you have both of these things have a logo, and you just do Command S. So now you're saving totally. The one last thing that we have to do is actually create that opening on top of the lid. So I know I had told you before that you could bevel it down, and I think at this point we could just leave that, just because I think it's not that important for this exercise. I think what I want to get out of this, what I want you guys to get out of this particular training tutorial is how to UV map, and I think those two things that I just did, if we repeat them, it will help you memorize how to UV at least a cup like this, and we could do other things as needed. And if you have any questions, always email me, and then we move forward. But I think these were actually very pretty much detailed to help you UV these two items. I'm doing just one more for version 13, and then we'll move on to a rendering one. So just to set things, all the rendering information that you might need to generate renderings. Let me just move this to straight just to see how it looks. I think it looks good. If I take off the sleeve, it looks great, and you have a white logo. So I mean, you could change this. This is just to show you the placement, and that we managed to do that part of the assignment. So thanks much, and again, I'll be doing one for 13, and then I'll do just one more for rendering, and then I'll upload everything, and we could review in class. And I think these will help you go through all the different information that we just did in that one day, which is, I think it was a lot, and I just apologize. I forgot that. I didn't realize how much it was. When I'm working, I'm just kind of just doing, and I just forget that yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do. All right, so thanks much, and see you in the next video.